Captain Do Yun Kang stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the massive station grow larger on the view screen. The structure was enormous, larger than anything humanity had ever built. It stretched across space like a silver wheel, with countless lights dotting its surface. This was the heart of the Galactic Council, the government that ruled 40,000 star systems across the galaxy. Do Hyun felt his tactical officer, Hyun-woo Lee, step beside him. The older man's face was tense. They both knew this meeting could change everything for humanity. "Captain, we're being hailed," the communications officer said. "Put it through," Do Hyun replied. The view screen changed. An alien face appeared, insectoid and angular, with multiple eyes that gleamed like black diamonds. This was Council Prime Velthara, the leader of the Galactic Council. "Human vessel," Velthara's voice came through the translator, cold and formal. "You will dock at Bay 73. Your ambassador will present herself immediately." The connection cut before Do Hyun could respond. "Friendly as always," Hyun-woo muttered. Do Hyun allowed himself a small smile. In the 6 months since first contact, the Council had treated humanity like children who needed correction. They seemed unable to understand that Earth didn't want or need their guidance. The docking procedure took an hour. Ambassador Yuna Park joined Do Hyun and Hyun-woo as they prepared to enter the station. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an unshakable calm that Do Hyun had always admired. She wore Earth's diplomatic uniform, simple and practical compared to the elaborate robes they had seen council members wear. "Ready?" Do Hyun asked her. "Always," Yuna said with a slight smile. "Whatever they want, we'll handle it." The airlock opened, and they stepped into a corridor that seemed designed to make visitors feel small. The ceiling soared 10 meters high, and the walls were decorated with symbols from thousands of different worlds. 2 guards waited for them, tall reptilian creatures in ceremonial armor. Without a word, they turned and began walking. The humans followed through winding corridors until they reached a massive chamber. It was circular, with seats rising in tiers around a central floor. Hundreds of aliens filled those seats, representing dozens of different species. The air hummed with translation devices converting countless languages. Velthara sat on a throne-like chair at the highest point. Beside her was Overseer Krim, a massive reptilian with scarred scales and cold eyes. He commanded the Council's military forces. "Ambassador Park of Earth," Velthara announced. "You stand before the Galactic Council. For 50,000 years, we have maintained peace and order across the galaxy. All civilized species recognize our authority." Yuna walked to the center of the floor, her head high. "We're honored to be here, Council Prime." "You should be more than honored," Krim growled. "You should be grateful. We are offering humanity a place in our order." Velthara raised a hand, and a holographic document appeared in the air above Yuna. It was long, filled with text in multiple languages, including English. "These are our requirements for humanity's integration into the Galactic Council," Velthara said. "First, you will dismantle all military vessels except for a small patrol force, which we will supervise. Second, you will provide 60% of all resources from your colony worlds to the Council for redistribution. Third, you will accept protectorate status, meaning all major decisions must be approved by us. Fourth, you will evacuate 2 of your 3 colony worlds immediately." Silence filled the chamber. Do Hyun felt his jaw tighten. Beside him, Hyun-woo's hand moved unconsciously toward where his sidearm would normally be. "May I ask why?" Yuna's voice was perfectly calm. "Your colonies occupy sacred space," Velthara explained. "Those worlds were once inhabited by species that came before. It is not appropriate for primitives to settle there." "And our military?" Yuna asked. "Humanity is too young, too aggressive," Krim said. "Every species that joins the Council must prove they can be peaceful." You will keep only enough ships to patrol your own space, nothing more. I see. Yuna looked up at the holographic document, reading it carefully. The chamber waited. Then something unexpected happened. Yuna laughed. It started as a small chuckle, but it grew. She laughed genuinely, as if someone had told her the funniest joke she had ever heard. The sound echoed through the silent chamber. The council members stirred. Whispers spread through the tiers. Velthara's multiple eyes narrowed. "You find something amusing?" the council prime asked, her voice sharp. Yuna's laughter faded, but her smile remained. "I apologize. Council prime, it's just that these demands are so absurd, I thought perhaps this was some kind of test or joke." "This is no joke," Krim snarled, rising from his seat. "We have ruled 40,000 systems for millennia. No species has ever refused our guidance." "Then let me be clear," Yuna said, her smile disappearing. Her voice became steel. "Earth rejects these demands, all of them. We will not dismantle our defenses. We will not surrender our resources. We will not abandon our colonies, and we will certainly not accept anyone's authority over our decisions." The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Some seemed shocked, others angry. Velthara raised her hand, and silence fell again. "You do not understand your position, human. We are offering you a path to civilization. Refuse, and you will be treated as all other primitives who reject order." "And what does that mean?" Do-hyun asked, stepping forward. "Isolation at best," Velthara said coldly. "Elimination at worst. We do not tolerate threats to galactic peace." Yuna looked up at the council, at the hundreds of species watching. "You have 48 hours to withdraw these demands," she said clearly. "If you don't, you will face consequences you cannot imagine." The chamber exploded with shouts and angry voices. Krim was roaring something about arrogance. Other council members were demanding the humans be arrested immediately. But Velthara held up her hand again. When silence returned, she spoke with icy contempt. "We need not fear primitives who have barely left their own star. You have 48 hours, human. Then we will demonstrate what happens to those who defy the council. You are dismissed." Guards moved forward to escort them out. As they walked back through the corridors, none of the humans spoke. They waited until they were safely back aboard the Horizon. As soon as the airlock sealed, Hyunwoo turned to Yuna. "Ambassador, they have thousands of ships. If they—" "Captain Do-hyun," Yuna interrupted, looking at him. "I believe it's time." Do-hyun nodded. He moved to the communications console and entered a long code. A light turned green, indicating the encrypted message was transmitted directly to Earth. "Protocol defiance authorized," he said quietly. On the view screen, they could see the council station. It looked peaceful and beautiful, like a jewel floating in space. But Do-hyun knew appearances could be deceiving. War was coming. Yuna stood beside him, watching the station. "They think we're weak," she said softly. "They're going to learn how wrong they are." The Horizon turned away from the station and began its journey back to Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Council was already preparing their fleets. They expected an easy victory, a quick lesson for upstart humans. They had no idea what was waiting for them. General Soman Choi stood in the command center deep beneath Geneva, watching dozens of screens showing ship movements across human space. The encrypted message from Captain Do-hyun had arrived 3 hours ago. Protocol defiance was active. That meant war was coming. She turned to the others in the room. Dr. Ji-won Nam, the xenoanthropologist who had spent 6 months studying everything humanity could learn about the Council species. Nari Song, the intelligence officer who had been analyzing Council military capabilities, and a dozen other key officers who would help coordinate Earth's defense. "Show them," Soman said to Ji-won. The scientist brought up a series of images on the main screen. They showed different alien worlds, all beautiful and peaceful, lush forests, calm oceans, abundant resources. "This is where they come from," Jiwon explained. "Every single species in the Galactic Council evolved on paradise worlds. Plenty of food, mild weather, few natural predators. Their evolution was relatively peaceful." "What does that mean for us?" one of the officers asked. "It means they don't understand us at all," Jiwon said. "Their wars are ritualistic. When two council species have a conflict, they meet in designated space, display their forces, maybe have a small battle with minimal casualties. Then one side surrenders and terms are negotiated. They think that's what war is." Nari stepped forward. "My team analyzed every council military engagement we could find records of. In the last 1,000 years, they've had 47 conflicts. Total casualties across all 47 wars, less than 10,000 beings." 10,000 in 1,000 years, another officer said, sounding amazed. "They've never had to fight for survival," Somin said quietly. "They don't know what real war looks like." She brought up another image. This one showed Earth from space, but it was an old image, from before cities and satellites. A storm covered half the planet. Lightning flashed across angry clouds. "This is where we come from," Somin continued. "A death world. For 200,000 years, humans fought just to survive. Ice ages that killed most of the population, predators that hunted us, diseases that swept through our communities. And then we fought each other, learning war the hard way." Jiwon nodded. "The Council looks at our 3 colony ships and small patrol fleet and thinks that's all we have. They see a young species, barely spacefaring, surely not a threat." "They don't know about Project Sentinel," Nari said with a thin smile. Somin pulled up a new set of displays. They showed asteroid fields throughout the solar system. But these asteroids weren't natural. Hidden inside them were massive shipyards, weapons platforms, and automated factories. Humanity had been building them for 50 years, ever since they first detected signs of alien civilization. "We learned from our own history," Somin explained. "When a more advanced civilization meets a less advanced one, it rarely goes well for the less advanced. So we prepared. We built quietly. We made sure that if anyone came to Earth with bad intentions, they would find us ready." One of the displays showed a count. 2,000 warships, fully crewed and ready for combat. Another 5,000 automated defense platforms. Thousands of missiles, each capable of destroying a ship, and weapons that the Council had never seen before. "They're sending 500 ships to intimidate us," Nari said. "Our intelligence suggests they think that's overwhelming force. In their experience, it probably is." "When do they arrive?" Somin asked. 36 hours, Nari replied. "They're taking a direct route, no attempt to hide their approach. They want us to see them coming, to have time to be afraid and surrender." Somin looked at the screens showing Earth. 7 billion people going about their lives. Most didn't even know war was coming. She had to protect them. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Activate all Sentinel assets. I want Admiral Minho's 1st Defense Fleet ready to deploy." Across the solar system, things began to change. Asteroids that had looked like rocks for decades opened up, revealing the ships inside. Weapons platforms powered up. Crews that had been training for this moment boarded their vessels. Meanwhile, on the Council station, Ambassador Yuna and her team were still present. They had been given quarters to wait in while the Council's ultimatum counted down. Yuna sat in her room, reading reports from Earth on her encrypted tablet. A chime at her door made her look up. She opened it carefully and found an alien standing there. This one was different from Velthara or Krim. It was amphibian-looking, with smooth skin and large, intelligent eyes. Yuna recognized it from the Council chamber, Counselor Thex, one of the few who hadn't shouted at her. "Ambassador Park," Thex said quietly, looking around nervously. "May I speak with you?" Of course, Yuna said, letting the alien inside. Thex moved to the center of the room and spoke in a hushed voice. I am taking a great risk coming here, but I must warn you, the Council has never lost a conflict, not in recorded history. Do you understand what that means? They're overconfident, Yuna suggested. More than that, Thex said. They cannot conceive of losing. Velthara, Krim, all the others, they have studied war as theory, as ritual. They have never experienced real defeat, real desperation. When their fleet comes to your world and you do not immediately surrender, they will not know how to respond. What are you saying? Yuna asked. I am saying that if you resist, they will escalate. They will bring more ships, more weapons. They will not stop until you submit or are destroyed. They cannot accept any other outcome. It would shatter everything they believe about the galaxy and their place in it. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Counselor Thex, why are you telling me this? The amphibian alien looked sad. Because in 50 years on the Council, I have seen what they do to species that resist. They call it bringing order, but I have seen the records they keep hidden. Species that refuse to submit simply disappeared. The Council rewrites history, says those species destroyed themselves or were never advanced enough to matter. You're saying they commit genocide, Yuna said flatly. I am saying the Council believes absolutely in their own righteousness, Thex replied. They think they are saving the galaxy from chaos. Any species that threatens that belief must be removed. Yuna stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. Thank you for the warning, Counselor. But humanity has faced extinction before. We survived ice ages, plagues, even our own weapons. We're still here. I hope that is enough, Thex said quietly. Then the alien left, disappearing into the corridors. Yuna immediately sent an encrypted message to Do-hyun and then to Earth. The Council wasn't just arrogant. They were dangerous in a way humanity needed to fully understand. Back in the Geneva Command Center, Somin read Yuna's message with a grim expression. Genocidal tyrants dressed as peacekeepers. She had suspected as much. General, one of the officers called out. Council fleet just entered detection range. 500 ships just as predicted. They're not even in a defensive formation. Somin looked at the tactical display. The Council ships were flying in a parade formation, meant to look impressive rather than tactical. They really didn't expect a fight. How long until they reached Neptune's orbit? She asked. 6 hours at their current speed. Good. Somin opened a channel to Admiral Minho. His face appeared on the screen, calm and ready. Admiral, deploy the first defense fleet. 2,000 ships. I want them positioned in the Neptune asteroid field. Let the Council see exactly what they're up against. With pleasure, General, Minho replied. Across human space, warships began moving into position. They emerged from hiding spots in asteroid fields, from behind moons, from stations disguised as mining operations. The Council's sensors would be detecting them now, watching in confusion as more and more ships appeared. In the Council fleet's command ship, alarms were sounding. Overseer Krim stared at the sensor displays in disbelief. This must be a malfunction, he growled. They cannot have that many ships. Sensors are confirmed accurate, Overseer, his tactical officer said nervously. We are detecting 2,000 human vessels. They are taking up attack positions. Krim felt something he had never experienced before. Uncertainty. How could primitives have such a fleet? Where had they hidden it? Maintain course, he ordered, trying to sound confident. They are bluffing. Humans are cowards who barely understand space travel. They will run when we approach. But as the Council fleet continued toward Neptune, the human ships didn't run. They waited, silent and ready. The misunderstanding was about to become very, very costly for the Galactic Council. Admiral Minho Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable, watching the Council fleet approach. Through the view screen, he could see them coming in their neat formation, ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Beautiful, he thought, also completely impractical for actual combat. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his tactical officer said. "Good. Maintain position. Let them get close enough to really see us." The human fleet was spread throughout the Neptune asteroid field, using the rocks for cover and positioning. Every ship had clear firing lanes and multiple escape routes. This was how you prepared for battle when losing meant extinction. Minho opened a channel to all his ship captains. Among them was Captain Hana Shin, the best pilot in Earth's fleet, commanding a squadron of fast attack ships. "Remember the plan," Minho said calmly. "They expect ritual. They expect display. They expect us to follow their rules. We're going to show them what humans do when our families are threatened." On her ship, the Meteor, Hana smiled. She had spent her whole career training for combat that might never come. Now it was here, and she was ready. Her squadron of 30 ships was positioned near a cluster of large asteroids, invisible to the Council's sensors. The Council fleet came to a stop just outside the asteroid field. Overseer Krim's face appeared on every human ship's communication screen, translated into English. "Humans," he announced, "you have made an impressive display, but you are clearly outmatched. You have until this fleet reaches your homeworld to surrender. If you submit now, we will be merciful. Resist, and you will be destroyed." Minho waited a moment, then responded, "This is Admiral Minho Park of Earth Defense Force. You have entered our territory with hostile intent. Turn back now, or we will defend ourselves." Krim laughed, a harsh sound. "You think you can threaten us? Very well. You will learn your place." The communication ended. Krim gave orders to his fleet. They began advancing into the asteroid field, still in their ceremonial formation. In their experience, this was when the enemy would fire a few shots for honor's sake, then open negotiations. "All ships," Minho said quietly. "Fire." 2,000 human ships opened fire at once. The Council's shields were sophisticated, designed to absorb energy weapons and deflect small projectiles. They were not designed for what hit them. Human missiles came from every direction, not energy weapons that could be absorbed, but solid metal projectiles moving at incredible speeds. Nuclear warheads that detonated outside shield range, creating electromagnetic pulses that disrupted Council systems. Kinetic kill vehicles that were simply dense metal rods accelerated to relativistic speeds. The first volley destroyed 80 Council ships instantly. They simply disappeared in bursts of light and debris. "Evasive maneuvers!" Krim roared, shocked. "Return fire!" But the Council ships were not designed for this kind of combat. They were built for intimidation and display. Their weapons were powerful but short-ranged, meant for honor duels where both sides faced each other directly. The human ships refused to stay still, using the asteroids for cover, popping out to fire and then disappearing again. Hana's squadron demonstrated why she was famous. Her 30 ships moved through the asteroid field like fish in water, perfectly coordinated. They would appear behind a Council ship, fire everything they had, and vanish before the enemy could respond. Then they would appear somewhere else entirely, attacking from a new angle. "Target their engines," Hana called to her squadron. "Make them dead in space." Her pilots were the best Earth had. They followed her lead, each ship attacking with precision. Within minutes, 20 Council ships were drifting, unable to maneuver. Engineer Tai-Hyung Cho watched the battle from his position on a weapons platform deeper in the asteroid field. His creation, the gravity lance, hadn't been used yet. It was humanity's newest weapon, something the Council definitely wouldn't expect. "Sir, Council Dreadnought moving into position," his weapons officer said. Tae-Hyung looked at his screen. The Dreadnought was enormous, twice the size of any human ship. It was pushing forward through the battle. trying to reach clear space where it could bring its heavy weapons to bear. "Perfect target," Taehyung said. "Activate the gravity lance." The weapon powered up. It used focused gravitational fields to rip ships apart from the inside out. Taehyung had designed it specifically for large vessels like this dreadnought. A beam of distorted space shot from the platform. It struck the dreadnought's shields, which held for exactly 3 seconds. Then the shields collapsed, and the beam hit the ship's hull. The dreadnought began to tear itself apart, its own structure pulled in different directions by competing gravitational forces. The massive ship broke into pieces, and those pieces were pulled into the surrounding asteroids by the weapon's lingering effects. "Gravity lance worked perfectly, sir," the weapons officer said with satisfaction. On Krim's command ship, alarms were screaming. His tactical displays showed ships disappearing at an alarming rate. They had already lost over 200 vessels, nearly half their fleet, and they hadn't destroyed a single human ship. "This is impossible," Krim roared. "They're primitives. How are they doing this?" His second-in-command, Koral, was studying the tactical data with growing horror. "Sir, their tactics. They're not following any known combat protocols. They're using ambush methods, feints, concentrated fire on weak points. They're treating this like a real war." "All war is real," Krim growled. "No, sir," Koral said quietly. "Our wars are ritualistic, controlled. This is survival combat. They're fighting like cornered animals." Another alarm sounded. 3 more ships destroyed. "Pull back," Krim finally ordered. "Retreat to the outer system. We need to regroup and request reinforcements." But retreating proved difficult. The human ships had positioned themselves to control all the exit routes from the asteroid field. Council ships trying to escape found their paths blocked, forcing them to fight their way through. More ships were lost. When the Council fleet finally broke free and jumped to faster-than-light speed, they had lost 230 ships. The humans had lost 6, all to lucky shots from Council vessels in their death throes. In the Geneva Command Center, General Soman watched the battle reports with a mixture of relief and dread. Relief that the first engagement had gone so well. Dread because she knew this would only make the Council angrier. "They're retreating to the edge of the Kuiper Belt," Nari reported. "Our sensors show them sending massive data transmissions back to Council space." "Calling for reinforcements," Soman said. "General, we're receiving a transmission from Ambassador Yuna," a communications officer called out. Yuna's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but determined. "General, I need you to broadcast a message on all channels, one the Council will intercept." "What message?" Soman asked. "That we tried to warn them. That we're trying to be civilized, that they have one more chance to retreat with their remaining ships and leave human space permanently." Soman nodded. "I'll send it. But Yuna, you know they won't accept." "I know," Yuna said quietly. "But history needs to show that we tried. When this is over, when the galaxy learns what happened, they need to know we offered peace repeatedly." The message was broadcast. In Council space, Velthara received it along with Krim's battle reports. She sat in her chambers, surrounded by advisors, reading the casualty numbers over and over. 230 ships, she whispered. "In one engagement. We've never lost so many ships in our entire history." One of her advisors spoke up. "Council Prime, perhaps we should reconsider. These humans are more dangerous than we thought." "No," Velthara stood, her voice hard. "We have ruled this galaxy for 50,000 years. We will not be intimidated by upstart primitives. Send the Grand Armada, 3,000 ships. We will crush them completely." Back on Earth, Dr. Jiwon received troubling information from her research team. They had been digging through everything humanity had learned about Council history, looking for patterns. "General Soman," Jiwon called, her voice urgent. I found something in the Council's historical records. What is it? Soman asked. Every species that refused to submit to the Council, there are no records of what happened to them. They just disappear from history. At first I thought it was incomplete data, but the pattern is too consistent. Somin felt cold. You're saying they were exterminated. I'm saying the Council has never accepted defeat or compromise, Jiwon replied. In their worldview, you either submit or you cease to exist. There's no middle ground. Soman looked at the star map showing human territory. 3 colony worlds and 1 home planet. 7 billion people on Earth alone. The Council would keep coming with bigger fleets until humanity surrendered or was destroyed. Then we'll have to show them something they've never seen before, Soman said quietly. A species that refuses to die. She opened a command channel. All forces, this is General Choi. The Council is sending their Grand Armada, 3,000 ships. They'll be here in 72 hours. Activate all defense protocols. Turn the Sol system into a fortress. By the time they arrive, I want every single advantage we can create. Throughout the solar system, more hidden defenses came online. Weapons platforms emerged from concealment. Orbital fortresses around Earth revealed themselves. The Moon opened hidden bays filled with fighters. Mars activated missile batteries. Even tiny stations in the asteroid belt showed their true purpose as automated weapon systems. Humanity was preparing for a battle that would decide their future. The Council expected submission. They were going to get the fight of their lives. Historian Minji Bai had been awake for 36 hours straight, but she couldn't stop working. Something in the Council's historical records wasn't adding up, and she needed to understand it before the Grand Armada arrived. She sat in her office at the University of New Seoul, surrounded by screens displaying ancient alien texts that humanity's translation programs were slowly decoding. Earth's intelligence services had managed to steal massive amounts of data from Council systems during the first battle, and much of it had been sent to researchers like her. There should be more, she muttered to herself, scrolling through lists of Council member species. The galaxy is huge. Where are all the other spacefaring civilizations? According to the Council's own propaganda, they had brought peace and order to 40,000 star systems. But Minji's research showed something strange. Of those 40,000 systems, only about 12,000 actually had populations living on them. The rest were listed as resource zones, or sacred space, or simply uninhabited. That didn't make sense. Planets that could support life were rare, but not that rare. Why were so many worlds empty? She dug deeper into the historical records, going back thousands of years. The deeper she went, the more confused she became. The Council's history seemed to have a gap. Records before a certain point were fragmentary, incomplete, almost deliberately obscured. "What are you hiding?" she whispered to the screen. Then she found something, a reference to the Keepers in a file marked as high-level classified. According to the brief mention, the Keepers were ancient artificial intelligences that maintained the true historical records of the galaxy. They were kept in a secure facility on the Council's capital world. Minji immediately sent a message to Nari Song, the intelligence officer. "I need access to the Council's central archive facility, the real one, not the public records. Can your team get me in remotely?" The response came back 15 minutes later. "We have a special forces team behind enemy lines, sending you their location. They'll help." Meanwhile, deep in Council territory, Seungmin-oh crouched in the shadows of an alien city. He and his team of 12 operators had infiltrated Council space during the confusion of the first battle. Their mission was to gather intelligence and, if necessary, carry out sabotage operations. "Boss, we've got a new priority from Earth," his communications specialist whispered. "Historian needs access to something called the Keeper Archive." Seungmin pulled up the location on his tactical display. It was deep inside the Council's government complex, heavily guarded, a suicide mission under normal circumstances. But these weren't normal circumstances. "Let's go wake up some ancient history," he said with a grim smile. The infiltration took 6 hours. Seungmin's team used every trick humanity had learned in centuries of covert operations. They posed as maintenance workers, hacked security systems, and when necessary, used weapons that were silent and left no trace. When they finally reached the archive facility, they found something unexpected. Instead of a room full of data storage, there was a circular chamber with 3 crystalline pillars in the center. Each pillar pulsed with soft light. "Are those alive?" one of his team members asked. "In a way," a voice said. Everyone's weapons came up, but there was no one there. The voice came from the pillars themselves. "We are the Keepers," the voice continued. "We have maintained the true history of this galaxy for 53,000 years. We have waited a very long time for someone to come looking for the truth." "Who are you?" Seungmin asked carefully. "We are artificial intelligences created by the First Council long ago. We were designed to preserve knowledge impartially, without bias or alteration. We have watched civilizations rise and fall. We have recorded everything." Seungmin activated his communication link to Earth. "Minji, are you receiving this?" "Yes," her excited voice came back. "Keepers, humanity needs to understand the Council's true history. Will you share it?" "We will," the Keepers said. "It is time the truth was known again." The pillars began to glow brighter, and data started flowing. Images, documents, recordings, thousands of years of hidden history. What they revealed was horrifying. 50,000 years ago, the galaxy had been very different. Hundreds of spacefaring species existed, each with their own cultures, philosophies, and ways of life. The galaxy was diverse, chaotic, but alive with possibilities. Then a group of species with similar beliefs formed an alliance. They believed in absolute order, in hierarchy, in a single way of doing things. They called themselves the Council, and they began to expand. At first, they offered other species a choice: join the Council and accept their authority, or remain independent. Many chose independence. That's when the real story began. Species that refused were labeled as threats to galactic peace, the Keepers explained. The Council would send their fleets. If the species still refused to submit, they were systematically destroyed. Not just defeated, eliminated completely. Their worlds were purged, their populations killed, their cultures erased from history. Minji watched in horror as the data showed world after world being sterilized. Entire civilizations turned to ash. The official records called it bringing order or removing chaos. The reality was genocide on a scale that was almost incomprehensible. "How many?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Over 300 spacefaring species were completely eliminated in the first 10,000 years of the Council's expansion," the Keepers said. "Another 200 were reduced to primitive states and absorbed into the Council as subservient populations. Only those species that submitted completely were allowed to survive intact." "Why does no one know this?" Seungmin asked. "The Council rewrites history," the Keepers replied. "They destroyed records, altered archives, created false narratives. They teach their member species that the Council has always existed, that it brought peace to a chaotic galaxy. Most species in the Council today have no idea their ancestors were conquered or that hundreds of other civilizations once existed." A new image appeared, a hologram of an alien that looked almost human, but not quite. It spoke in an ancient language that the translation system slowly converted. "I am Thal, of the elder species," the hologram said. "If you are seeing this, it means the cycle continues. The Council has found another species that refuses to kneel, and they are attempting genocide again. Whoever you are, please break this cycle. The galaxy was once full of diverse life and thought. The Council has turned it into a desert, with only those species that submit allowed to exist. Stop them, for all of us who came before and failed. The hologram faded. Minji sat in her office, tears streaming down her face. This wasn't just a war for humanity's survival. It was a war to prevent genocide, to stop a cycle of extinction that had been going on for 50,000 years. She immediately sent everything to General Somin and Ambassador Yuna. On the Council station, Yuna received the data in her quarters. She read through it all, her expression growing darker with each page. When she finished, she sat in silence for a long time. Then she sent a message to Counselor Thex, the one council member who had warned her. They met in a quiet garden section of the station, surrounded by plants from a dozen different worlds. "You knew," Yuna said quietly, "about the genocides." Thex looked sad. "I suspected. I found fragments of records over my decades on the Council, but I could never prove it. And speaking such accusations without proof would only get me removed from power, making me useless to prevent future atrocities." "The Keepers confirmed everything," Yuna said. "The Council has eliminated hundreds of species. Are you going to stand by while they try to do it to us?" "What can I do?" Thex asked helplessly. "I am one voice among thousands. The Council believes absolutely in their righteousness." Yuna looked at the alien directly. "When this is over, you're going to help us build something better. A galaxy where species don't have to choose between submission and extinction." "If you survive," Thex said quietly. "We will," Yuna promised. "Humanity has faced extinction 6 times in our history. Ice ages, supervolcano eruptions, plagues, near-nuclear war. We're still here." "The Council doesn't understand what they're facing." Back in the Sol system, General Somin called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. She presented all the evidence the Keepers had provided. "This changes everything," Earth's president said after seeing the data. "This isn't just self-defense. This is fighting against genocidal tyrants." "Yes," Somin agreed. "But it also means they will never stop. The Council cannot accept defeat because it would mean admitting their entire history is built on lies and murder. They'll keep sending fleets until we're destroyed or they have no ships left." "Then we'd better make sure it's the second option," the president said grimly. Somin activated her command channel. "Activate Project Homecoming, all of it." Across the Sol system, the final layer of Earth's defenses came online. Hidden in the asteroid belt, in orbit around Jupiter, scattered throughout the Kuiper belt, thousands of weapons platforms, orbital fortresses, and automated defense systems revealed themselves. Earth had spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment, since the day humans first realized they weren't alone in the universe. Every resource that could be spared had gone into building defenses. The solar system itself was a weapon. "Admiral Minho," Somin called. "The Grand Armada will be here in 18 hours. Are we ready?" "Ready as we'll ever be, General," Minho responded from his ship. 3,000 Council ships are coming. We have 2,500 ships of our own, plus all the static defenses. It'll be close." "Make it count," Somin said. "For all the species that came before us and couldn't fight back. For all the civilizations the Council erased, we're going to make sure this is the last time they try to exterminate someone for refusing to kneel." Across human space, every ship, every station, every defense platform was manned and ready. Civilians on Earth looked up at the sky, knowing that somewhere out there, a battle for their very existence was about to begin. And in the depths of space, the Council's Grand Armada approached, confident in their righteousness and their power, unaware that they were about to face something they had never encountered before. A species that had survived everything their own planet could throw at them, and who absolutely refused to be extinct. The Grand Armada arrived at the edge of the Sol system exactly on schedule. 3,000 ships, the largest fleet the Galactic Council had assembled in 1,000 years. From his command ship, Overseer Krim looked at the human homestar with grim determination. This time there would be no retreat, no mercy. The humans would submit or be eliminated. All ships, advance formation, he ordered. We will sweep through this system and crush every human vessel we find. Then we will demand Earth's surrender. If they refuse, we will bombard their world from orbit until they beg for mercy. The fleet moved forward, passing Jupiter's orbit. That's when the sensors began screaming warnings. Sir, detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system, the tactical officer reported, his voice rising in panic. Thousands of them. It's everywhere. Krim stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The entire solar system was lighting up. Weapons platforms emerged from asteroid fields. Orbital fortresses revealed themselves around every planet. The moon itself opened massive bays, releasing swarms of fighters. Mars showed hidden missile batteries. Even the outer reaches of the system had automated defense stations. "This is impossible," Krim whispered. "No species could build all this without us knowing." "They've been preparing for 200 years. Admiral Minho's voice came over the communication channel. "Welcome to Sol System, Overseer. This is our home, and we will defend it." The Council fleet advanced, confident their numbers would prevail. They were wrong. The Battle of Sol was not a battle. It was a slaughter. Human forces had every advantage. They knew every hiding spot, every gravitational well, every angle of attack. The static defenses created overlapping fields of fire that the Council ships had to navigate. And the human fleet, though outnumbered, fought with a ferocity born of defending their families. Captain Hana Shin led her squadrons through the Council formations like a knife through paper. Her pilots had spent years training for this exact scenario. They knew every tactic, every maneuver. The Council ships, designed for ritual combat, couldn't keep up with their aggressive, unpredictable movements. Engineer Tai Hyung Cho's gravity lances proved devastating. Each one could disable a Council capital ship, and he had 50 platforms positioned throughout the system. The Council's largest vessels simply broke apart under the gravitational stress, but Krim refused to retreat. His pride, his entire world view, wouldn't allow it. He kept sending ships forward, demanding they break through, reach Earth, force surrender. His captains obeyed, even as hundreds of ships were destroyed. Captain Do Yun Kang watched the battle from the horizon, positioned near Earth. He saw the Council's flagship pushing through the carnage, heading directly for the home world. It was damaged, leaking atmosphere, but still coming. "They're not going to stop," Hyunwoo said beside him, "even if it means their own destruction." Do-hyun made a decision. "Helm, intercept course. Full speed." "Captain, that's suicide," his helmsman protested. "Just do it," Do-hyun ordered calmly. The horizon accelerated, putting itself on a collision course with the Council flagship. At the last moment, Do-hyun's crew evacuated in escape pods. Then the horizon, traveling at maximum velocity, rammed directly into the Council command ship. Both vessels were crippled, drifting and venting atmosphere. But the Council flagship's advance was stopped. It would never reach Earth. The battle continued for 6 more hours. When it finally ended, the Council had lost over 2,000 ships. The remaining 1,000 surrendered when their commanders realized Krim was captured and their flagship destroyed. Humanity had lost 400 ships and countless defense platforms. But Earth was safe. General Soman stood in the Geneva Command Center, exhausted but victorious. Around her, officers cheered and embraced. They had done it. They had defended their home against overwhelming odds. But Soman didn't celebrate. She knew this was just the beginning. "Secure all Council survivors," she ordered. "Treat their wounded. We're not going to become the monsters they thought we were." Ambassador Yuna arrived on Earth 3 days later, bringing Counselor Thex with her. Together, they began an unprecedented project, putting the Galactic Council's leadership on trial. The trial was broadcast across the entire galaxy, transmitted on every communication channel humanity could reach. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Council's hidden history was revealed to everyone. The Keepers provided evidence. Seungmin-Oh's team had recovered documents. Minji Bei presented her research. Species after species learned the truth. They learned about the genocides, the erased civilizations, the rewritten history. They learned that their own ancestors had been conquered, that they lived in a galaxy far smaller and less diverse than it should have been. Velthara sat in the defendant's chair, forced to watch as her entire civilization's lies were exposed. She tried to defend the Council's actions, claiming they had brought order and peace. But when confronted with the evidence of 300 extinct species, she had no answer. "You call it order," Yuna said during her final statement. "I call it tyranny. You created a desert and called it peace. You silenced voices and called it harmony. The galaxy should be filled with diverse species, different ideas, countless cultures. You reduced it to a handful of civilizations that were too afraid to be anything but what you wanted them to be." The verdict was decided by representatives from the surviving Council species, many of whom were horrified by what they learned. The Council leadership was found guilty of genocide, crimes against sentient life, and systematic erasure of civilizations. But instead of execution, humanity proposed something different. Velthara and the other Council leaders would be required to live among humans, to learn what they had tried to destroy. They would witness humanity's diversity, their conflicts, their ability to disagree without exterminating each other. "You need to understand what you've been destroying," Yuna told Velthara. "Not just our lives, but our potential. Every species you eliminated had something unique to offer the galaxy. Art, science, philosophy, ways of thinking that will never exist now because of you. You'll live with that knowledge." In the months that followed, a new galactic government formed. It was called the Free Assembly, and its principles were simple: voluntary cooperation, mutual defense, no subjugation, and technological freedom. Any species could join, and any species could leave. Counselor Thex became one of its founding members, working alongside Yuna to create something the galaxy hadn't seen in 50,000 years, a truly democratic union of worlds. Dr. Jiwon Nam proposed the Restoration Initiative. The Keepers had genetic samples and cultural records from many of the extinct species. With care and ethical oversight, some of them might be brought back, given a chance to exist again. "We can't undo the past," Jiwon said, "but we can try to heal what was broken." 3 years later, Ambassador Yuna stood before the Free Assembly. 6,000 star systems had joined, including many former Council worlds. The chamber was filled with hundreds of different species, all equal members. A young alien approached her during a break, one of the newly restored species from the Keeper's archives. "Ambassador Yuna, may I ask something that has always confused me? When the Council first demanded your surrender, why did you laugh?" Yuna smiled, remembering that moment. "Because they thought we were weak. They looked at us and saw primitives who should be afraid. They didn't understand that humanity has spent its entire existence learning one lesson: how to survive the impossible." She gestured at the diverse assembly. "We didn't want war. We wanted friends, partners, equals. We wanted to share the galaxy peacefully. But the Council made a crucial mistake. They assumed we were like them, that we evolved on gentle worlds where survival was easy." "What happened instead?" the young alien asked. "We evolved on a death world," Yuna explained. "For 200,000 years we fought ice ages, predators, plagues, famines, and each other. We nearly went extinct 6 times. We learned to adapt, to survive, to never give up no matter how bad things got. We've been fighting since we lived in caves and we're very, very good at it." She looked at the assembly members gathered around them. "We laughed because the council expected us to surrender without understanding who we are. They thought power meant having the biggest fleet. But real power is resilience. It's the ability to be knocked down and get back up. It's refusing to die even when death seems certain." "And now?" the young alien asked. "Now, we're not conquerors," Yuna said firmly. "We're survivors, and we're going to help the galaxy survive too, together as equals. That's what the free assembly means. No more species forced to submit or die. No more cultures erased because they're different. The galaxy will be diverse again, chaotic and beautiful and full of possibilities." She paused, looking out at the stars visible through the chamber's viewports. "The council tried to create order through force. They built a civilization on fear and genocide. We're going to show the galaxy something better. A civilization built on choice, on cooperation, on the revolutionary idea that different ways of thinking make us stronger, not weaker." The young alien smiled. "My species owes its existence to humanity's refusal to surrender. Thank you, Ambassador." As Yuna watched the assembly session resume, she thought about how close humanity had come to extinction. If they had submitted to the council, they would have been absorbed into that gray, uniform civilization. Their uniqueness would have been slowly erased. Instead, they had fought. They had survived. And in surviving, they had broken a cycle of tyranny that had lasted 50,000 years. The galaxy would never be the same. And that, Yuna thought, was exactly as it should be.